All right, 24.4, I'm going to be doing number 1 and 2, which is to write each parabola in graphing form and then describe the important features that are listed here. So for number 1, we're trying to get this equation in graphing form. Throughout this entire lesson, I'm going to keep coming back to the equation of a parabola in graphing form. For a vertical parabola, we have 1 over 4p x minus h squared plus k. And for horizontal parabolas, the equation will be x equals 1 over 4p y minus k quantity squared plus h. So the goal on these problems is to get our equation in one of these forms. So we should first look for which variable is being squared. So in this number 1, x is being squared. So the goal is going to be to get the equation to look like this. We're going to be using completing the square to do this. So whichever variable is squared, we're going to get all of the terms that have that variable, so x squared and 12x, isolated. So we're going to first subtract 20, and we end up with 4y minus 20 equals x squared plus 12x. So now that we have all the x's isolated, we can use the completing the square process. We're going to add a number to complete the square and make this a perfect square trinomial. Whatever number we add to this side, we need to make sure we add to this side of the equation as well. Completing the square, we use the formula b divided by 2 squared. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 squared is 36. I need to add that to the left side as well. So combining like terms here, we get 36 minus 20 is 16. Our goal is to get the equation to look like this. So completing the square, then we factor this. So that would be x plus 6 quantity squared. And we still need to isolate the y. So in the end, we want it to be y equals. So we can now subtract 16. So that's 4y equals x plus 6 squared minus 16. And to isolate the y, the only other thing we need to do is divide by 4. So if we divide each term by 4, this becomes y equals. Rather than writing it as x plus 6 quantity squared over 4, let's write the a value, or the 1 over 4p, as a coefficient in front of the x minus h squared. So this would be 1/4 x plus 6 squared minus 16 divided by 4 is 4. So we now have it in graphing form. So let's go back and fill that in up here. So y equals 1/4 x plus 6 squared minus 4. And we'll fill in the other features that we're asked to find. So y equals, this is a vertical parabola. And the vertex of the parabola, so we need to look at the hk, is at -6 and -4. So number 2, we have 8x equals y squared minus 10y minus 39. And then we can see here that we need to get it to look like this equation. So let's do the similar process as we did on number 1. Okay, now in this equation, y is the variable that's being squared. So let's isolate all the y's so that we can complete the square. So we need to add 39 to both sides. And completing the square, we need to add b divided by 2 squared. So -10 divided by 5 is 2. If we square that, or -10 divided by 2 is 5. If we square that, we get 25, which means we need to add 25 to this side. So now let's just simplify 8x plus 64. And then factoring this side, we get y minus 5 quantity squared. And we're trying to get this to look like graphing form again. So in the end, we want it to be x equals and then the rest. So let's subtract 64. 8x equals y minus 5 quantity squared minus 64. And then we need to divide by 8. So divide all of these by 8. That gives us x equals. We want to write this, instead of y minus 5 squared over 8, let's put the coefficient in front, which is 1/8 y minus 5 squared minus 8. So we now have this in graphing form. So x equals 1/8 y minus 5 squared minus 8. We can now tell, because it's x equals instead of y equals, and the y is being squared instead of the x, this is a horizontal parabola. Be careful when you're finding the vertex. This is now the k value, this is the h value. So y minus k, so the k is 5, and plus h is negative 8. Careful not to switch those, because we're used to vertical parabolas where the h is here and the k is here.